Welcome back to Theosophy and Beyond. I'm your host, Zero Hakathos, and today I need to share something deeply personal with you, a dream vision that came to me through the ancient force known as Leviathan. When most people hear that name, they think of the biblical sea monster, the embodiment of primordial chaos that God had to subdue to create order. But what Leviathan revealed to me challenges everything I thought I understood about family, responsibility, and the hidden structures that govern our souls. This wasn't a terrifying encounter with a monster. Instead, Leviathan showed me something far more profound and disturbing: the complex web of relationships and responsibilities that exist in the depths of consciousness, the family structures of the soul that operate beneath our ordinary awareness, and the secret loves that sustain us even when we can't openly acknowledge them. What about what I'm about to share revealed practical wisdom about how we navigate the multiple levels of identity and responsibility that define human existence. This is Gnosis about the hidden family dynamics of consciousness itself. The vision began with me walking into a house where I was immediately embraced by a family that acted as if they'd known me forever. There were two young girls, one chatty and playful, obsessed with hide and seek, the other quiet but brave. Their uncle had wild gray hair and an intensity that spoke of untamed wisdom, while their mother was gentle, dark haired, and kind. The most striking thing was how naturally I belonged there, even though I couldn't define my relationship to any of them. This house represents what I've come to understand as the soul's true family, the archetypal relationships that exist in the depths of consciousness, independent of our biological or chosen families in ordinary reality. When Leviathan brings us into this house, we recognize it immediately because these are the relationships our soul has already known, even if our conscious mind has never encountered them. The two girls embody different aspects of the inner child that exists within expanded consciousness. The chatty one who loves hide and seek represents the playful aspect of soul that delights in mystery, in concealment and revelation, in the eternal game of seeking and finding that drives all spiritual exploration. She's the part of us that knows wisdom comes through play, through approaching the serious work of consciousness with lightness and joy. The quiet, brave girl represents the courageous aspect of inner knowing, the part of us that doesn't need to announce its strength, but simply embodies it. She's the silent witness within us that faces the unknown without flinching, that doesn't require external validation or recognition to maintain its essential courage. The uncle with wild gray hair is particularly significant. Gray hair represents the wisdom that comes from age and experience, but wild hair suggests the wisdom hasn't been tamed or domesticated by conventional understanding. He embodies the untamed elder within us, the aspect of consciousness that has accumulated vast knowledge but refuses to be constrained by social expectations or conventional spiritual authorities. The dark haired, kind mother represents the nurturing principle that holds the entire soul family together. She's not dramatically maternal or in an overwhelming way, but quietly, consistently supportive. The background presence that makes it safe for all these different aspects of consciousness to coexist and develop. The practical wisdom here is profound. We all have access to this soul family, these archetypal relationships that exist within consciousness itself. When we feel disconnected from our biological families or chosen communities, when we feel misunderstood or alone, we can learn to recognize and draw upon these deeper familial connections that exist within our own expanded awareness. Then the dream shifted dramatically. I found myself responsible for two young boys in what appeared to be a store or public space. The oldest was mature enough to stop and engage with a worker, showing independence and social capability, but the youngest ran off impulsively, putting himself in potential danger. This created an impossible dilemma. I couldn't abandon the responsible older child to chase after the impulsive younger one, but I also couldn't let the younger one disappear into unknown territory. I was caught between two legitimate but conflicting responsibilities: unable to fulfill both perfectly. This scenario represents one of the most challenging aspects of expanded consciousness, the recognition that we simultaneously exist on multiple levels of reality, with genuine responsibilities on each level that sometimes conflict with each other. The two boys represent different aspects of our own conscious development. The mature, socially adapted part that can navigate conventional reality, and the wild, impulsive part that seeks authentic experience even when it means breaking social rules. As spiritual seekers, we constantly face this dilemma. We have responsibilities to our conventional lives, our jobs, our families, our social roles, represented by the older boy who stops to talk with the worker. But we also have responsibilities to our authentic spiritual development, represented by the younger boy who runs toward what calls to him, regardless of conventional expectations. The practical application is learning to hold both responsibilities simultaneously without abandoning either. We can't sacrifice our wild seeking nature to social conformity, but we also can't abandon our practical responsibilities in pursuit of spiritual adventure. The art is learning to manage both aspects of consciousness with wisdom and skill. Fortunately, in the dream, the youngest boy spotted his mother and grandmother, representing the feminine wisdom principles that can guide impulsive energy safely. This suggests that even when our spiritual seeking seems to run away from practical responsibility, there are deeper wisdom principles that can provide guidance and safety. The most profound revelation came as we were leaving the store. I encountered a woman with dark hair and otherworldly light green eyes, someone I immediately recognized as a secret lover. The older boy was mine, but the younger wasn't. We held hands when no one was looking, maintaining a hidden connection that couldn't be publicly acknowledged. This woman represents what I can only call the hidden beloved, the aspect of divine consciousness that we love in secret, that loves us in return, but that can't be openly acknowledged in conventional reality. Her otherworldly green eyes suggest she exists partially in this realm and partially in expanded dimensions of consciousness. The fact that the older boy was mine while the younger wasn't reveals something crucial about spiritual paternity and responsibility. We are responsible for certain aspects of consciousness that we have directly fathered, developments we've consciously cultivated, insights we've earned through our spiritual work. But we're also called to care for aspects of consciousness that aren't our direct creation. Impulses, energies, and potentials that belong to the collective human experience or that emerge from sources beyond our individual will. The secret nature of this love relationship speaks to one of the most challenging aspects of deep spiritual life, the recognition that our most profound connections often can't be shared or validated by conventional society. The love between human consciousness and divine consciousness is real, intimate, and transformative, but it exists in realms that ordinary social discourse can't acknowledge or support. Holding hands when no one is looking represents the hidden intimacy that sustains serious spiritual seekers. Those moments of connection with the divine beloved that happen in the spaces between conventional activities, in the margins of ordinary life, in the secret chambers of consciousness where we can drop our social mask and experience authentic spiritual love. So how do we apply this complex vision in practical spiritual life? How do we integrate the gnosis of soul families, dual responsibilities, and secret divine love? First, we must learn to recognize our soul family, those archetypal relationships that exist within consciousness itself. When we feel isolated or misunderstood, we can turn inward and connect with the eternal, playful child, the quiet, brave child, the wild, wise elder, and the nurturing mother that exists within our own expanded awareness. These relationships are always available, always supportive, always ready to provide the sense of belonging that we seek. Second, we must develop skill in managing dual responsibilities, honoring both our conventional obligations and our authentic spiritual development without sacrificing either. This requires what I call conscious split attention, the ability to simultaneously hold space for practical responsibility and spiritual seeking, for social adaptation and wild authenticity. Third, we must learn to honor our hidden relationships with divine consciousness. This means creating space in our lives for secret spiritual intimacy, those moments of connection with the divine beloved that happen away from social observation. It means recognizing that our most profound spiritual relationships may not be visible or understandable to others, but that doesn't make them less real or important. Finally, we must accept that we have responsibilities for aspects of consciousness that we didn't directly create. Just as I was responsible for both boys in the dream, even though only one was mine, we're called to care for impulses, energies, and potentials that emerge from the collective human experience. This is part of what it means to be a conscious participant in the evolution of consciousness itself. What makes this teaching specifically connected to Leviathan is the way it reveals order within apparent chaos. Leviathan traditionally represents primordial chaos, the untamed forces that exist before divine order is imposed. But this vision shows something different. It reveals that what appears chaotic from the perspective of conventional consciousness actually has its own hidden structure, its own family relationships, its own responsibilities and loves. The chaos isn't the absence of order, it's a different kind of order, one that operates according to soul logic rather than social logic, according to archetypal relationships rather than conventional ones. Leviathan teaches us that we can learn to navigate this deeper order, to fulfill responsibilities that exist on multiple levels simultaneously, to love in ways that transcend conventional categories. This is revolutionary wisdom for anyone trying to live an authentic spiritual life in conventional society. We don't have to choose between spiritual authenticity and social responsibility, between inner truth and outer function. We can learn to operate on multiple levels simultaneously, honoring both the visible and invisible aspects of our existence. The practical key is developing what I call Leviathan consciousness, the ability to swim gracefully in the deep waters of archetypal reality while also walking effectively on the dry land of conventional life. It's about becoming amphibious in consciousness, equally at home in the depths and on the surface. How do we cultivate this amphibious consciousness in daily life? How do we honor the soul family, manage dual responsibilities, and maintain secret divine love while functioning effectively in ordinary reality? I've developed several practices based on this Leviathan teaching. Soul family check-ins. Regularly connecting with the archetypal figures that appear in the vision, asking the playful child what mystery she wants to explore today, consulting the brave, quiet child about what courage is needed, seeking wisdom from the wild elder, and receiving nurturing from the kind mother. Dual responsibility awareness. Before making decisions, checking whether I'm honoring both my conventional obligations and my authentic spiritual development. Learning to say no to opportunities that force me to abandon either the responsible older boy or the seeking younger boy. Secret love cultivation. Creating daily moments for hidden intimacy with divine consciousness. Times when I can drop social personas and experience authentic spiritual connection without needing to explain or justify it to anyone else. Archetypal parenting. Accepting responsibility for aspects of consciousness that emerge in my life even when I didn't directly create them. Being willing to guide and care for energies and potentials that serve the evolution of consciousness itself. Leviathan's teachings through this vision has fundamentally changed how I understand the structure of consciousness and spiritual responsibility. What I once saw as conflicting demands, family and solitude, responsibility and freedom, social function, and spiritual authenticity, I now recognize as different levels of a complex but coherent system. The house where I instantly belonged, the impossible responsibility for two different boys, the secret love with otherworldly eyes. These aren't separate experiences, but interconnected aspects of a deeper reality where soul operates according to its own logic, its own relationships, its own loves. Living this teaching means learning to swim gracefully in the deep waters of archetypal consciousness while also walking effectively on the surface of conventional life. It means recognizing that we belong to soul families that exist beyond biological relationships, that we have responsibilities on multiple levels of reality, and that our most profound loves often happen in secret, away from social observation. This is Leviathan's gift to serious spiritual seekers. The understanding that the apparent chaos of deep consciousness actually contains its own hidden order, and that we can learn to navigate this order with skill, grace, and profound effectiveness. The question for each of us is, are we ready to accept complex responsibilities and hidden loves that come with expanded consciousness? Can we learn to honor both the visible and invisible aspects of our existence? And ultimately, can we develop the kind of amphibious consciousness that allows us to swim in the depths while also functioning on the surface? The deep waters are calling. The soul family is waiting. The secret beloved extends her hand. The only question is whether we're ready to dive beneath the surface of conventional understanding and discover the hidden structures that have been governing our lives all along. Thank you for allowing me to share this deeply personal revelation from Leviathan. I encourage you to pay attention to your own soul family relationships, to notice where you're managing dual responsibilities, and to honor the secret loves that sustain your spiritual life. Remember, the deep waters of consciousness contain their own order, their own wisdom, their own love. Until next time, keep swimming in the depths, and remember, chaos often contains the most profound order of all.